We're really looking forward to the start of the conference. You know, it always feels like a new beginning, even though it's right in the middle of the season. I think our players feel good about where they are. I think our staff, including me, I feel good about where we are. Especially with Angus and Daniel Gomez sort of rounding into shape. I won't say they're in tip-top shape, but they're rounding into shape. It's a good feeling knowing that we will soon have Eric back too. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Greg, what have you seen in the last week or two that really makes you feel confident that your team's ready for conference play?
You know, it's really been sort of the level of toughness against tough competition. Our toughness, our stick-to-itiveness, our ability to sort of execute our way out of jams rather than just try and shoot our way out of jams. And that's both offensively and defensively. So I think we've grown since last year from that standpoint. And I think we have more guys that we can put in the game, so I feel deeper than we were last year as well.
Something Charlie talked about after the loss to UH was that the team had to stick together, that they were unintentionally in crunch time sort of starting to play as individuals. It wasn't a conscious thing.
Right.
Is that something you notice in watching it? Guys are kind of going off in their own land. And how do you get them back on that game plan?
Well, Stephen, we got him back in this last game by talking about it in the practices after Hawaii. And the Hawaii game was the first game I started to see a little chink in that armor, and we talked about it and worked on it. And I think we were much better at it in the Quinnipiac game. I thought we stuck together. I thought we held on to our guts is a term that we used. We didn't panic. And we looked for each other rather than looking to make plays individually. And I've always said about this group, they're not maliciously selfish. They actually care so much that they're all trying to pick each other up individually. Now we're starting to pick each other up from a team standpoint.
They had another lead in that game, let it slip away. Is it sort of this team is almost is unfamiliar to them to play with such a big lead, and so they?
Well, you know, I don't think so. I think that we just are playing better teams, and that game got really physical. I mean, you know, I thought that they did a great job in getting back into the game by trying to play more physical. I thought we did a great job of not getting into it with them, just sticking with the game plan and then pulling that lead back out again. So, you know, that's just the difference is I'm looking at it half full. Other people might be looking at it half empty.
We talked about this a little bit Sunday night after the game, but generally increasing your, taking a step up in the non-conference schedule, is that just kind of the general hope that it'll make your team better, ready for conference play?
Yes, yeah, and when you're, I know I've been talking about this now this is my 6th year, but when you're turning the culture around in a program, that's a real delicate balance, because if you do that too early, if you have too hard of non-conference schedule before you're ready for it, it can be demoralizing. But I thought this team at this time would be prepared to play these tough teams, and which is why we tried to get the schedule the way we got it. So it is certainly a conscious effort. But it's also a conscious effort to play the way we've been playing, so that's good to see too.
And you want to win every game, but did you
right.
come through that non-conference schedule somewhere close record-wise to where you thought you could?
You know, yeah, we wanted to be 12-0, right? Realistically, we thought 8-4, 9-3 were both. It was sort of the window of opportunity that we thought, okay, this would be something satisfying. Somewhat satisfying. Anything below that would have been disappointing. Now that I can look back and say that, and quite honestly, I mean, you guys know me. If we had been 6-6, I would be telling you I was disappointed. If we were 7-5, I might, depending on how you lost that extra one, I might have said disappointed, or I might have said, well, while I'm disappointed, I'm optimistic about it. So I'm just trying to give the nation out there a real look at how I'm thinking. I really think that 8-4 9-3, 8-4 were, were doable and would be positive.
Aside from record, what didn't you see in non-conference play that you wanted to maybe see before you get to the tough Pac-12?
I wanted to see us be a better rebounding team without Eric. That's what I wanted to see. That's hard to do, though, when you got a guy like Eric who you've been depending on, who's part of your team, and you can't use him. That's number one. I think other than that, I think things are going kind of in the direction that I want them to go. I mean, I was thinking at this point in time I wouldn't be as confident putting the freshmen in situations as I am now, but I'm really confident putting all three of them, including Shea. I know he doesn't get as much time as the other guys, but when it is time for him to go in, he's always prepared, and he never makes me feel like, oh man, I wish I didn't put him in. So that's a. I know you didn't ask me about. You asked me about surprises to the downside, but that's something, man. I really thought that I would not be prepared to put those guys in Pac-12 games, and now I am. Well, Hallis and Malcolm, both of those guys, I feel very comfortable. Hallis, it's interesting. Hallis, from an offensive standpoint, has shown me that he's more ready offensively than he is defensively, and Malcolm has shown me he's ready more defensively than offensively. So it's a nice pairing for those two guys. But either way, I feel good putting them in the game.
Was it something where you talked in Hawaii where kind of wanted him to make the decision after such a scare?
Right.
Did you want to throw him to the fire, not going to keep sending him up, or how did you kind of balance that for him?
Stephen, I tried to tiptoe into it, to be honest with you. I didn't want any setback because he's so important to us. So, I was prepared to have a real short chain on him, and if he looked like he was going to be having a bad game, I wanted to get him out of there and not have him second guessing himself. So much so that we probably didn't go to him right away. I mean, we really didn't go to him until later on in that first part of the game, and then he responded so well. Then I got confident, and I sort of let him ride out until the first, after the first media timeout, and he looked great. He felt great. He wasn't pressing, so I think he's right where it looks like he's picking up right where he left off before he had the scare.
Talk about your team being improved on defense. Is that just an eye test, or how do you measure that?
Well, I'm looking at the scoring field goal percentage on the other team, so our scoring defensive percentage, I'm looking at that. I mean, we've held a couple of teams in the 30s, and you want to get teams into the mid to the high 30s is pretty good, but the low 30s is really good. And if we can do that, and we still are scoring percentage-wise in the upper 40s, low 50s, that's a nice spread to have. So I'm using that as sort of empirical data. And then from an eye test, I'm just watching us stay in front of our men. I'm watching us getting hands on balls, taking teams deeper into the shot clock defensively. And really what we need to do to finish that out and make me really confident is get the board after you make them miss a shot and not give them so many second chance points. So, but it feels like we're a better defensive team just from an eye test standpoint when I'm watching our team. I like the way we're playing defensively.
Coming off a season low in turnovers, and we had the last 4 games, you guys have shot the free throws really well. How big are both of those factors in winning close games like this?
Well, it's big because we talked about this at the end of last season that we had to get better in a couple of areas. Not turning the ball over, making our foul shots, and then at the ends of games, executing our offense rather than trying to beat our man off the dribble one-on-one or something like that. Those were 3 things that we targeted at the end of the season last year. So it seems like the message has gotten across. And, the turnover thing, I think, is really important, because certain turnovers are worse than other turnovers. You know, I mean, if you turn the ball over and the shot clock runs out and they don't get a run out, that's sort of a good turnover. If you're you know, your first pass or second pass, you throw it to a guy, they get a quick run out, you know, those are demoralizing. I think we've done a good job on the turnovers, but we've especially done a really good job on having the demoralizing turnovers.
How do you feel like your team matches up with Colorado?
You know, Colorado's a good team, and you know, we don't match up. We don't match up too badly, except for, you know, Spencer Dinwiddie is a tall point guard, and those guys are always tough to handle, and we've always had a tough time against them. But I like the way our front court matches up with their front court, and then I like the way that we match up with the pace that the game's probably going to be played at. You know, they like to play, especially at home. They like to get going up and down, and that helps us. I think the fact that we have more of a bench this time around is going to help us. So I like our chances, but you know, they're ranked in the top 25 and are a very good team, very hard to play at home. So we're not taking anything for granted. We have to go in and we have to play especially well to win this game.
Great, there's no easy start to the tactical schedule.
No.
A team like Colorado on the road, is that something you're excited about in terms of you get right away benchmark game?
Oh, absolutely. And I tell you what, you know, I wish we had more teams that were ranked in our conference. You know, I think when you play in a conference where you have, I mean, you just look at college football, you look at the SEC, every game they play, it's like one ranked team against another ranked team. And even if you lose those games, it helps your team from, like you say, benchmarking where you are, but it also helps you competition-wise, playing against really good teams. And that's what you know, you come to a school like Oregon State, you want to play really good teams all the time.
With Eric coming back next week, what areas does he make the biggest impact?
He'll make the biggest impact early on because he's just hasn't played. It'll be mostly defense and rebounding. And then as he gets his legs under him and he gets his wind back, he'll be another offensive weapon for us. I mean, we ran some stuff for him last year, and he's a very good offensive player. And overall depth, you know, that just adds another player, another high-quality player you can put in the game. So from our standpoint, we're going to be adding a lot when he comes back.
Do you see guys getting antsy about him coming?
I do. Nobody's more antsy than he is, though. I mean, he's like he's a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. He's just bouncing around, nervous and excited, and I mean, I can't even imagine the emotions going through his head. But nobody is more sort of high-strung than he is right now, and I know our guys feel in the back of their minds that they can't wait to get him back because we have done an admirable job without him.
How are you going to juggle with the way Daniel you kind of come on and play?
Yeah.
You know, that front to front, you've got a lot of guys who, like you said, you feel comfortable playing.
Well, it's not like this is the first time I've thought about this. You know, I can see there will be times when you'll see Angus and Daniel Gomez and Eric Moreland in at the same time. And there will be times when you see Devon Collier and Eric Moreland and Daniel Gomez in at the same time. I mean, I can go any of those, you know, any kind of combination that I want, depending on what the situation holds. I think this is going to be great for Devon because I think he's playing way more minutes than he normally would be, and this will give him a chance to get a little bit of a break and be a little bit fresher. But I think what people don't realize is that Daniel Gomez is such a versatile defensive player that, you know, it's going to be hard to do this, but I could see having one guard in there and having Eric, Daniel, Angus, and Devon in at the same time. So, you know, all of those possibilities we run through in practice and have situations where we think this might work in this situation. So it's great to just have the flexibility.
And with the four big guys, if you threw four big guys in there at the same time,
Well, you know, I only look at the teams we're playing like right now. But if you know, looking ahead, if we are ever in that position, I just think that, you know, who's the small forward going to guard? You know, that's what I think about. You know, the small forward or the two guard. That's going to be the vulnerable spot. And you know, if Angus is the center, then you've got 3 spots in the front court. I mean, 2 spots in the front court, and then that's shooting guard, who are going to be sort of guarding different kinds of guys. Angus being able to bring a center away from the basket. What we'll see is people putting a smaller guy on Angus and a bigger guy on the guys who are down there, which allows us to post Angus up.
And with Eric, it seems like he's able to step out and play a different spot. What's kind of his natural spot?
You know, that's a very good question, Jesse. I think deep down, I think Eric's position would be a 3, possibly a 2. And people forget when he was in high school, he was like 6'2", and then he grew to be 6'10". But he still has all of the ball handling, the sight, the footwork of a smaller guy. He's just now 6'10", and he's long. He has a very nice outside shot when he can take his time and step into it. He's got real good feel for the game, so he's a great passer. So I think really 3 is a comfortable position for him. Could we put him at the 3 spot? Certainly. You know, we did it last year. We even put him at the 2 sometimes, depending on who we had it forward. Even if they were shorter than him, but he's a better ball handler. Like if we had Jarmal and Eric in at the same time last year, we put Eric at the 2 and Jarmal at the 3, and then Devon at the 4 and Angus at the 5. So I think we could do any of that. But I think Eric's natural position would be a 3, but he could play 3. He can guard 2, 3, 4, 5.